Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to be talking about Eternals again. Eternals, to defy the apocalypse. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent. We're talking more Eternals today. I told you in those videos that I was going to do another Eternals book, and here I am back with another one. This is Eternals to Defy the Apocalypse. This is a new trade that just came out. It directly follows the Neil Gaiman trade, which I spent 30 minutes talking about who the Eternals are, why they're here, what their purpose is. So if you're not familiar with the Eternals, go find the review of this book. I go all into it. It's long. It's 30 minutes long. I'm going to try not to do that here in this video and just simply talk about this book, which is called Eternals to Defy the Apocalypse. Now, what is in here, Brent? What are you talking about? Directly follows Neil Gaiman. I thought you said that was a standalone thing. They were trying to make it a Watchmen, whatever. Yes to all that. But what we have here is a new series of Eternals comics. Not the newest one. There's a new one with Kieran Gillen and Esad Ribic that's out. This one is by Charles and Daniel Knauf, who were the father-son duo behind the HBO show Carnivale, and they did also Iron Man, Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the same time that this was coming out. So this takes place in the Civil War area of the Marvel Universe, somewhere in 2006, 2007. So this collects the 9 issues of that entire series and the annual #1. So that's it. That's all there ever was, and it got canceled. And you can clearly tell by this book that it got canceled because it wraps up really quick. The cool thing about this book is that it does everything that I wanted the Neil Gaiman Eternals book to do. It lets me know about the characters more. It actually gives them personalities. It gives them motivations. It doesn't really go explore into why those motivations are, but I think all that was, it was there's more to this book that was planned that got cut short. So the first 6 issues here are the main story, and they are drawn by the wonderful, wonderful artist who is here on the cover. His name escapes me while I open it up. Daniel Acuña. He has done the Freedom Fighters for DC. He did Mark Waid's Flash run, a little bit of that. And then most recently, you have seen him doing a whole bunch of stuff for Marvel, specifically Black Panther. I think he did a majority of the intergalactic Black Panther in space stuff with Ta-Nehisi Coates. His art has grown from where this is to even greater heights. I really enjoy his art, even though when I first saw his art, back when he was doing Freedom Fighters, I don't think I read the book, but I flipped through it in the comic book shop I was at in college. It was like, okay. Then I was reading Flash when Mark Waid came back, because we were covering it on the Comic Timing podcast. I didn't really fall in love with it there, but as he's grown, I've come to appreciate his style more. He's very Fraser Irving-like. If you know Fraser Irving, then you probably know Daniel Acuña. Very expressive, very colorful, and all his stuff is based on his use of colors. There's not a whole lot of line work here to be admiring, how he plays with light and shadow with his lines and inks and pens or whatever. It's all like almost a watercolor, but very simplified, and uses a lot of solids and a lot of highlights and stuff like that. So he's a very, very interesting artist to look at visually, and keeps your eye to the page in this book of Eternals. I think the best thing I can say about this book is that Daniel Acuña's art does not disappoint. So if you're a fan of Daniel Acuña and you've never read this, I think it's worth picking up, because as I'm about to tell you, the story is not half bad either, which is not something I could say about the Neil Gaiman book that we talked about in the previous video. So Charles and Daniel Knauf, I really enjoyed their run on Iron Man. They did, so immediately following the Extremis book with Warren Ellis, they took over that book and they did a arc called Execute Program, which is when I jumped onto that title. I really enjoyed that. Then they did the Civil War tie-in issues, and then the Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. tie-in issues, I think all the way to the end of that run of Iron Man. I really enjoyed those issues, and I really enjoyed this first arc of the Eternals book, these first 6 issues. We'll talk about the last 3 later on in the review, but the first 6 is the meat of this trade, the meat of the story, and I think that's what's worth spending the most time about. So this takes place directly after Neil Gaiman's run. You have the Dreaming Celestial in, what's it called? San Francisco. He's standing up. They even have a previously page which references all the stuff that happens in the Neil Gaiman book where the Eternals are just waking up from their slumber, and Makkari and Icarus, or Icarus, whatever you want to call them, are searching for other Eternals, while at the same time Druig is over in like some Russian adjacent country trying to wake up Eternals there as well. So they're setting up 2 warring factions of Eternals, and that is the thing. That's the main conflict in this story, is that there are 2 warring factions of Eternals now trying to race each other to wake up the other Eternals. There's not a whole bunch of them that are awoken in this book. There's some that have been previously awoken. There's like maybe 2 or 3 of them that are actually in the book, where one side gains one and the other side gains the other, kind of thing. And that's all fine and good. The other storyline that's going on, and I think really it's the main one, is what's happening with the Dreaming Celestial. So this is the big yellow guy, the big yellow Celestial, this alien person that is talking and figuring things out. And he is talking to Makkari, which is, Mercury's supposed to be based on this guy, right? And you have a jealousy factor with Ajak, because Ajak his purpose is to talk to the Celestials. So Ajak is pissed at Makkari because Makkari took his job. So you have all of that drama going on at the same time as the Celestial and talking to Makkari talking to the rest of the Eternals in Olympia, down in Antarctica, and them going like, why is he talking to you? What is his purpose here? And he's like, whoa, guys, you really need to listen to me. Nobody really takes each other that seriously until the end times, when you need to, and it's almost too late. But this is the most interesting story with a Celestial involved that I've ever read from Marvel Comics. You have the Celestial actually talking to Makkari, whereas I think previously in Marvel Comics maybe they weren't talking that much. Again, I've never read any other Eternals other than this book and the Neil Gaiman one, so if there's a previous run of Eternals from Jack Kirby or whoever where the Celestials actually talked, let me know. All the stuff that I've read previous to this that's dealt with Celestials, I think, was the Universe X, Paradise X stuff from Alex Ross. I'm looking at it down there. And they didn't talk in that, as far as I know. They just were there. So it is really neat to see the Celestial have an opinion on things on Earth and kind of develop that way. Here's a picture of a bunch of Celestials right here. These are the guys I'm talking about. They're giant. They're like, 250 foot, taller than a skyscraper, and one standing in Golden Gate Park when we open this book. If you want to know how all that happens, go read the Neil Gaiman book. I don't really think you have to. I think the recap page will probably do enough of a good job explaining what happened. And like I said in that review, I don't think that book's really worth reading. But if you want to go read it, go ahead. But so those, 3 plots are really what drives the first 6 issues and the intertwining of those. And then you also have the interpersonal relationships with Icarus and Thena and Makkari and Circe, which were all kind of established a little bit in the Gaiman run. So you have other Eternals being here. There's also some cool appearances by the Order. And if you don't know who the Order are, then you didn't read any Civil War tie-ins or, the Initiative tie-ins after Civil War. This was Matt Fraction's book where he developed these 10 new superheroes, and they were the Order. They were the official government team. I want to say they were in California because it took place in Hollywood. They're making a quick appearance here. That was fun. You got Iron Man in his Civil War Extremis armor talking to Circe. And it sounds like Tony Stark because, again, these guys were writing Iron Man at the time this book was coming out. So, very, very cool art. And yeah, this is Daniel Acuna right here. His art is beautiful. I really enjoy it. Again, it could not be for everybody, but if you're enjoying some of that, there you go. So the first arc wraps up, and then very quickly, the entire overall arc of what was set up in these first 6 issues wraps up quickly again in the last 3 issues, 7, 8, and 9. So you can tell that, there's probably bigger plans for a longer storyline, and somewhere in between, 4 and 5 in the writing stage, they said, hey, guys, we're going to give you till number 9 to wrap this thing up, so I suggest you do it. So very quickly, things escalate to the point where there's no longer any warring factions, and they're all worried about the Horde that is coming to destroy Earth. And this is something that the Dreaming Celestial had been talking about for pages and pages in this book, that his whole function is to observe life on Earth and report up to the Fulcrum whether or not to send when to send the Horde and who the Horde was going to eradicate. The Horde either eradicates the Deviants or the Celestials, from what I understand. That's explained in this book. I don't know if that's new stuff to the Eternals lore or if that's all Jack Kirby stuff from Days of Old, but that's what's set up here in this book. So the Eternals, the 2 warring factions, have to band together at the very end to fight the Horde and become, one super team and save the planet. And that's kind of where we end this 9-issue run of the Eternals. Very cool. Kind of very cool. I read it all today and yesterday. Really enjoyed what I read. Standout, like I said, for me, Daniel Acuna. And you can tell that maybe the budget wasn't there for the book at the last couple of issues, because we go from Daniel Acuna, a very deliberate artist, to no fault of their own, but Eric Wynn, his style is just completely different from Daniel Acuna. Apparently there's Sarah Pacelli in issue number 7, although looking at some of the art, I can't tell if it's Sarah Pacelli or Eric Wynn, and it's not really good Sarah Pacelli the way that you expect if you read her stuff from the Miles Morales Spider-Man book that came out a few years later after this. Not really an identifiable Sarah Pacelli. So she must have been really, really early in her career when she did this fill-in or part of it. Because even in that one issue, it seems like there's 2 different art styles in there, and it's like, why is there 2 different art styles? There's only one artist listed in. Well, actually, it doesn't say. It just says Eternals 7 through 9, Eric Wynn, with Sarah Pacelli number 8. So maybe she only does that one section that stood out for me in number 8. That would explain things. Let's see if I can find it. Just skip past it. Yeah, maybe this is Sarah Pacelli art right here, and then Eric Wynn is the more scratchy stuff that we get there. Yeah, there's X-Men in here as well. Again, if you were reading the Fraction run of the X-Men at this time, Fraction and Brubaker maybe, Manifest Destiny, that whole arc, that era, they're in San Francisco on the Utopia Island, or they get to Utopia a little bit later, I think, and they see the Dreaming Celestial. I remember reading X-Men at the time and seeing that giant golden celestial in the book. So it's an interesting book. I definitely think this will give you a better idea of who the characters are in preparation for the upcoming Eternals movie that's supposed to come out this year. And there's most of the characters that I read on IMDb are in this book. You got Salma Hayek playing Ajak. You got Richard. Oh gosh, all these guys. Not Kit Harington. He's playing the Black Knight, which he's not in this book. So don't take this as like the basis for the movie or anything like that. You got Gemma Chan playing Cersei, and Makari is now a female. Ajak is a female. So they're doing some interesting things with this movie. So I don't know if it's going to be more of the Awakened stuff, or maybe we'll get the Dreaming Celestial. I think that would be a cool idea, because it's an instant hook, I think, if you have these people awaken and try almost not remember who they are and then have to save the Earth in one movie. I think that's a pretty good hook. Or even better, if they could keep it just like, most of Thor 2 was off-world, maybe all of the Eternals movie is in Antarctica fighting the Deviants or whatever, not involving the current Marvel Universe human race at all. Although, if you have the Black Knight in there, it kind of goes against that, I think. But yeah, I like this more than I like the Gaiman stuff, even though it had a bunch of different artists in here, 3, and it's not all John Romita Jr., who's a legend. I really enjoyed this more than I enjoyed the Gaiman run. So if you thought the Gaiman run was so-so and you want to read a little bit more modern stuff, because there's not that much to read for Eternals, honestly. There's the original Kirby run and whatever the leftovers are from when he left, the Gaiman stuff, this book, and was just, I think, 2 issues out at the time of this video of the new Eternal series. So there's not a whole bunch of like modern stuff to read. And honestly, this is pretty good. So that's my recommendation for Eternals to Defy the Apocalypse. This just came out in trade paperback, so you should be able to order this pretty easily. It should be in print here in 2021. It retails for $25, and I think it's worth your time. The annual in the back is totally skippable. It says it takes place between issues 1 and 2. It doesn't have anything to do with the main story, and it's the last thing in the trade. So if you're done with it, then I think it's totally fine. It's not even written by the Knaufs. It's written by Fred Van Lante, who's not a bad writer. It just doesn't really tie into anything else. So, and the story is over at that point when you're reading the book. So to read this story that takes place in between issues 1 and 2 is kind of like, why didn't you put it in between issues 1 and 2 earlier in the book? I don't know. But anyway, not that bad. Kind of a surprise. I enjoyed this one. So there you go. Eternals to Defy the Apocalypse. Let me know if you've read this run and what you thought of it. Or if you're going to check it out, let me know what you thought after you read it down below in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. All that stuff helps the channel grow. And we will see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.